Lucas here, and today we're going to be doing a ranking video, which is not normal for my channel, but you know what, I think it's going to be pretty fun, so let's get right into it. So this video is going to be on every single Fortnite location, ever, even if it's removed currently. I know probably everyone watching this video knows what this game is. It's a really popular game, and if you don't have context, you probably shouldn't watch it, but I'm pretty sure everyone does, so let's get right into it. So, what is the worst location in the game? That is, oh, by the way, this is only named, which is in the title, so I don't know why I had to say that. But the worst location is the block, and okay. So the block is a weird one because every so often the whole place changes into something else. So it's hard to say if it's good or bad. It could be like amazing one day, and then the next day it could be absolutely garbage. But I do give props to Epic because this is a really cool idea that gets the community involved with the game. So the block, I'm not saying it's the worst, but it could be and it could not be. So technically not the worst, but it's a weird one. I don't really know how I can rank it. And for the actual worst location that's named, I have to give it to Snobby Shores. And the loot in Snobby is actually like not that bad, but the reason it's this low in the list is because of its location. Like it's on the very west side of the map, meaning you're most likely going to have to run a lot. Sorry, because the zone is going to get you. But actually, recently there is an expedition outpost, really close to it, so you could get a plane. But I don't know, Snobby, the loot isn't worth it. You should probably expect 1 or 0 people here every game if you're in solos. So Snobby, it's not a great place. Sorry. So next on our list is Haunted. You'll probably see a theme for the next few ones. Of the location, but yeah, so Haunted pretty much falls under the same fate as Snobby, but the loot is way better thanks to the new castle that sits on the mountain right in front of it. I'm not saying the old Haunted would have been the worst, because Haunted used to be really bad, but that castle really made it better, and including the 2 houses which are right next to it. Also, not to mention, you will get max shield because of the mushrooms, so that's pretty cool. Next on our list, we have Wailing Woods. There, there's a lot of locations on the edge of the map, like I said, so the loot isn't really better than Haunted. Probably the same, or maybe a little better because of the new cabins. But yeah, Wailing got a huge buff, which gave it cabins, like I said, in an underground bunker. Wailing is pretty much known to get your stone and wood maxed. Um, but now in Wailing, it has rifts and portals. And portals is a Wailing exclusive thing, which just teleports you around in the cabins with the underground bunker. It's pretty cool. But the thing you might be saying is like, why isn't it lower if the zone placement is really bad still? Because in Wailing, there's actually a permanent rift in the main bunker, so the zone isn't really an issue at all. Also, you get max shield because there's mushrooms everywhere. Next on our list is Loot Lake, and yes, the modern day Loot Lake. I know the picture doesn't show it, but there is not a PNG picture of the new lake, so shut up. Okay, anyways, the loot here isn't that bad. It's just Loot Lake, how much potential it had because all the new seasons. It was so disappointing because think of it this way. The whole entire point of season 5 and 6 was to give Loot Lake grass. I have a grudge against Loot Lake, and that's why it's this low. I don't care what you say. Oh boy, next on our list is Tomato Town. Yeah, Tomato Town was better off unnamed because that is not a town. The loot here is garbage, but the location is pretty good zone-wise. The reason it's higher than the previous locations is because you can max out wood, stone, and get 500 plus metal within 50 meters of Tomato Town. The wood and stone, there's like you already probably know, but there's giant trees and above the underground bridge area, there is a ton of just rocks is there. So Tomato Town, you get some loot and you got a lot of mats. Also, that red house should be to mention, uh, directly west from it. It's like 20 meters away from the actual town itself. Next on our list is Fatal Fields, and this one you might be confused, but just hear me out. Fatal Fields has average loot and an okay map placement. If you do land here, expect 2 other people, but here's the problem which I was saying earlier. Or no, I wasn't saying earlier, I was going to tell you about it. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but the problem I have with Fatal is the fact that you can't see through the corn, making it so annoying for enemies just to run and hide in there. I know it's easy to counter it with triangles, but that's just a waste of materials. Fatal would have been so much higher on this list if it wasn't for that corn. That corn ruined Fatal Fields. Next on our list is going to be Flush Factory. Okay, wait. This may not make so much sense, but just listen, okay? Yes, Flush had just below average loot and a garbage map placement, but this was the number one spot to go for a low key game because the loot wasn't bad for solo. And a lot of people, including me, like to go low key sometimes just get to a late game. This is where you went, and it's also right next to Yonder Yard and Chair. Yonder Yard isn't actually called that; it's just what it's called in the community. And Chair is the place with the giant wooden chair that's always there. It's right next to it, so it's like you can have two different paths that both lead to great loot locations. Also, Rip Flush. All right, next on our list may shock you, but it's Polar Peak, and I do have a grudge against Polar Peak because of two things. One, it gave birth to the disgusting weapon known as the Infinity Blade, and thank God it's vaulted. Two, if you fall off the cliff of Polar Peak, you cannot catch yourself with building because of the way the cliff is shaped. I have died so many times because of it, and so has Ninja. Yeah, so that Polar Peak can't wait till it's melted. Next on our list is Junction, and I know what you're thinking. Junction is garbage, but wait. Okay, so Junction itself didn't get a buff, but the area definitely did. A quad crasher factory was spawned right next to it, and the loot in that factory is really garbage, but you get a guaranteed quad crasher. And right next to Junk is a warehouse, which can spawn up to 4 chests, and you can get and there's a ton of pallets there. And on top of that, the loot from Junk isn't bad, just the location is bad. But now that there's an expedition warehouse right next to Junction, the storm. Oh, by the way, expedition outposts are the things that have planes, the little red buildings. They're called expedition outposts, and they have the planes and stuff. So you don't have to worry about the storm because it's a 200-meter walk, not even like a 150-meter walk to get there, and then you're off. So Junction's really good now. You know, next on our list is going to be Lonely Lodge, and well, Lonely has always just kind of been like an spot, but has recently gotten a much needed buff. First of all, the mansion or the superhero house or whatever you call it is pretty much in Lonely, being like 10 meters from the border. Secondly, another expedition outpost is added right in front of it, making the storm obsolete. So, yeah, the loot here is average, and you should probably expect 0 or 2 people within that range because it's not a very popular spot. Understandably so. Next on our list is Tomato Temple. So, Tomato Town got a buff, and it's pretty huge. The loot here is now average. It's not great, but it's better than Tomato Town. And the map game from Tomato Town stays with Tomato Temple. The surrounding area didn't change, so you're gonna get that stone. You're gonna get that wood. The metal is good to be a little down because the cars and everything in defenses are not as much, but it's still kind of there. But the problem I have of this place is if you're in Tomato Town or Tomato Temple, sorry, and you get in a fight, you have instant low ground, which could lead you to die. Um, the red house is still there, so it adds on to it, but that low ground part really affects it. Up next, we have Moisty Meyer. I'm basing this Moisty off the season 4 one because that Moisty was probably the best out of all of them. Um, so the season 4 Moisty Meyer had average loot, which the before season 4 the loot there was actually garbage. But the mat gain was insane. No matter what you do, you get max wood there. But now there's some metal and stone. Well, before it got destroyed, I'll get to that later. Has metal and stone now, because of the movie sets, and it was just really great for low key games. And it was home to the most underrated location, the prison, which wasn't actually named. You should probably expect, I don't know, 2 people, one person. It's probably in that range. Um, it obviously depends on the bus placement, but the bus goes right down the middle of the map. This is what I'm kind of basing it off right there. Okay, this next one probably will shock you, but just wait until I'm done before judging this choice. So, Lucky Landing. Yes, Lucky Landing. Lucky has probably the worst storm placement in the whole game, but the loot is above average and the mat gain is pretty good. But that doesn't that but there's been other locations that are much better on the list already. But here's the thing about it. This is literally the one of the best places to go for duos or squads because almost no other duels or squads will go here. So you get all the loot, and then you can go right into the zone. So the only downside is the zone, pretty much, which normally never kills you. Um, it just will take some health off, but chances are you find a med kit, a slurp, bandages, whatever, in Lucky anyways. So Lucky is pretty good. This next one's short because it's just the most ridiculous location ever. This one's Lazy Links. The only reason people like Lazy is because of ATKs, which are now becoming garbage because of now we have planes and quad crashers. Like, oh my god, it's stupid. The loot's bad and the placement is also okay. I'm not gonna say it's bad because the zone normally isn't that far unless it's literally on the exact other side of the map, which isn't common. Um, so the loot here's not the loot's bad, but the placement's good. You should probably expect 2 or 3 people here. Yeah, so Lazy I wouldn't recommend really, but you know what? Some people love it. It's also horrible for duos or squads. Horrible. And I say that from experience. Trust me. I don't think I've ever played a duo game where I made it out of there. Next one is a pretty controversial one, but this is Tilted Towers. And the reason this isn't number one is because on the loot spectrum, it's probably the best place to go. But you got to look past just the loot because the chances are about this place is you're not making out alive. You see, the Tilted is probably one of the best storm placements in the whole entire map. But you'll probably get 18 other people going there, meaning if you don't land on the best gun instantly, you're most likely not going to make it out alive. But if you do make it out alive, you have a very good chance of winning that game if you're not trash. Next is Dusty Depot. Oh man, this is the most loved OG spot. Okay, so this one has two completely different sides for me, and I'll go over it. The reason it's not lower or higher on the list, like meaning worse, is obviously because of the nostalgia and the love, but that's not the only reason. Okay, Dusty was actually garbage if you landed there, and the loot is actually garbage, but there are three things that make Dusty Depot amazing. One, it was an amazing mid/late game base. Getting high ground on top of one of the warehouses or basing inside them, that was always good for it. It was really low key late game. Great hiding spot if you just need to met up or something. So that's really, really important to think about. And yes, I know that's still there for Dusty Divot, but Dusty Divot is a lot more, right there. If like I don't know really how to explain it. I'll explain it once I get to Dusty Divot actually. Another very good point is the quotations OG quotation factories, which were factories that were really close to Dusty and had average loot, making it a really great rotation. People loved it. People hate that got taken out, but yeah. The final reason is it's if you landed there as a not pro good player, it is noob haven because noobs don't really like people who are new to the game don't really know that Dusty wasn't good to land and that they take advantage of that. And well, it's pretty funny, but not gonna lie, I started in season 3 back in March and I was one of those noobs. So yeah. Next on our list, we're getting into like the good places now. We kind of started off with saying this is bad, this is bad, this is okay, this is okay. From now on, these places are pretty good. But every place besides the final ones, which still do, every place pretty much has a downside. So moving on to Shifty Shafts. Shifty has above average loot and decent map placement. If you include the 2 houses, which I do, Shifty is amazing for duos or squads. More duos than squads, but you can still fit a squad in there and get good loot. It's maybe the best because of the 2 houses there. If the 2 houses weren't there, this would have been far out this list, but they are there. So, just the problem with Shifty is you most likely get low ground most of the fights because Shifty half of it is underground. But that doesn't really happen often because if someone lands Shifty with you, they're probably low ground too. But it does happen and it is there, so that's definitely something you should look out for when landing Shifty. Next on our list, we have Paradise Palms. Paradise is like the modern desert city, which is beautiful, by the way. Great design there, and it has amazing loot. But the problem with Paradise Palms is the map placement. You should expect around 4 people here a game, and there's a certain grudge with the community for Paradise in the desert. Because pretty much the reason the community doesn't really like Paradise in the desert that much, because it took Moisty Myers and the prison's place. which was a very loved spot. That whole area was kind of like, you know, it's been there since day one, and it's kind of sad to see it go. But honestly, um, everyone kind of saw it coming. Moisty Meyer getting removed, and we were right. So yeah. Moving on. So, Season 4 arrives and Dusty Depot goes, and in its place lies Dusty Divot, the meteor crash site and Area 51 inspired buildings around it. Dusty has been evolving and getting more buildings as time goes on, and now has a ton of trees. So, if you're solo, you will get max wood and metal. You should probably expect around 6 people here because of the map placement. Because Dusty Divot is actually the proven like the best map placement in the game because it's one square, like the squares, like the grid on the map, away from the exact center. So yeah. Also, Dusty Divot includes um, one and a half of the warehouses from Dusty Depot, which one of them got turned to Dusty Diner, which I'm going over in a separate video, which is unnamed locations. I'll get into that later anyway. So counting that, the loot here is above average, I would say, definitely. Getting into the really high tier places, we have Salty Springs. So, Salty is the small neighborhood located in the middle of the map. So, that is also a really good reason why it's popular. Salty has above average loot, but you should expect around 12 people each game, which is not enough considering the amount of houses. So, you will most likely not make it out alive. And if you do, your loot will be above average, but it probably won't be amazing. Do not land salty for squads. Duos maybe. Squads, I've had my experiences and it does never turns out good. There's just not enough even for a whole squad. Considering there's gonna be 5 other squads landing there, it's hell. Next on our list, we have a new location for season 7, and it's Frosty Flights. So Frosty has a terrible map placement, but that doesn't really matter because Frosty has guaranteed planes because it's like an airport kind of pretty much. So the zone isn't really an issue. The loot here is just above average only because of how much buildings there are. So you should probably expect around 5 people here. And it's a pretty good location, excluding the planes, but the planes definitely made it go from like 15 to 5, so it's really good. Next on our list, another new location actually. This is the main attraction of the winter biome, and it's the Happy Hamlet. So Happy definitely has above average loot, but the location is bad. It was where Happy took what am I trying to say? Happy took the spot, that's the word, of Flush Factory, and Flush Factory had a garbage map placement. So you should probably expect around 8 people here per game, and I would say Happy Hamlet is probably one of the best spots for squads because of just and duos, but more importantly squads because of the amount of buildings, how big each one is. It's crazy. So squad game, this is probably a really good place to go, and and you can just rotate using the planes at Frosty Flights, which might take a while because they are pretty far, but that's probably the best you can do rather than just walk. Next on our list is Greasy Grove. So, Greasy Grove is the home of the iconic Durr Burger and has a lot of other buildings. The loot here is above average, definitely, but the zone placement is not good. But the thing about Greasy is there are rifts near Viking Hill, which is northwest from Greasy. So you should expect probably 3 people here per game, and you will most likely make it out alive because you can either just sneak out because of how big it is for the amount of people, or you can fight it out, which is pretty good. Um, Greasy is now gone in this season 7, so rip Greasy. So the thing about season 7 Greasy, it's not gone, it's frozen over. So you can still open the roofs with the houses, but that's it. There are a ton of theories that Greasy's coming back. I'll probably cover that in a later video. So that's pretty cool. But as of now, Greasy, like season 7 Greasy, don't go there. It's not even named anymore. Don't land there unless it's for a challenge. All right, number 2. Number 2 is Risky Reels. So Risky was really underrated for season 4 because it looked really small. But come season 5 and people started seeing how good Risky is. So Risky has amazing loot. Probably one of the best in the game for such a small area. It spawns so many chests. That one's for you, Ethan. I know you're probably gonna watch this. So many get destroyed, noob. For such a small area, so it has so many chests for such a small area. The only downside is the map placement. It's plotted right into the middle of all the northeast houses, which has good loot, but the zone you're probably gonna have to run, and there are not rifts near there anymore as of season 7. Oh, also season 7 risky's gone. So I don't know why I said that. The block fell right on top of risky. I honestly wish it didn't take risky, but it's a really cool idea and I do really like it, so I don't really mind. And for our number 1 spot on our list, ladies and gentlemen, we have Retail Row. The original Tilted, as people call it, the Retail Row is probably one of the most iconic spots in Fortnite. Obviously, Tilted Towers takes number 1 for that, but Retail has amazing loot, but you should expect around 7 to 9 people every game. This place is great for squads and duos. The map placement is average. You probably will have to run to the zone, but probably a 60% chance you'll get zone, so it's pretty good. And it's right next to some planes, so if you don't get zone, you're good anyways. And if you do make it out of retail alive, your loot will be phenomenal. Well, that's the end of our list for every single name location ever. That was not exhausting, actually. It was kind of rewarding. I finished that. I'm going to make a separate video later on every unnamed location. And I'm not just going to cover one broken house. I'm going to cover, like, say, soccer dome, the prison, the northeast houses, like that kind of stuff. I'm not covering one or two houses that are just there. I'm going to cover locations that people have nicknames for, pretty much. So I'll see you guys in the next video.